a data scientist by profession. He uses data to tell stories and makes a living. Suvendu was born and brought up in various parts of rural Odisha of the 1970s and 80s. He did BSc in Physics Honours and MBA in Odisha before landing his first job in Chennai. For the last 19 years, he has been living in Bangalore with his wife and two sons. So, first of all, we are so honored to have you on board with us. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you so much.
I'm glad that you're good, sir. So, first, I'm just gonna, start this session with a question that when did it come to your mind that you want to write a book like this?
Actually, almost 10 years back, I started to think of writing a book, and but due to various reasons, I kept on procrastinating it. But when the COVID happened and all of us were in the lockdown in the first round of the COVID, one fine day I realized that if I don't tell my story, the story would probably go to the grave with me, because I didn't know what was going to happen because of the COVID. So I, just opened my computer and started writing. That was early April of 2020, and I kept on writing every day for almost 3 hours, 5 to 8, mostly in the morning, and on weekdays, I wrote around 300 to 500 words, and in the weekends, I wrote almost 1,000 words every week. And I finished the book in less than 6 months.
Okay, so you enjoyed writing it then. I'm assuming that you are really interested in writing more. So, is there any future projects that you're working on?
Yeah, currently I'm working on my next book. This book is, I have completed almost 10,000 words, another 70,000 to go. But in the last 3-4 months, I have not written a single word. So probably.
Okay, so what's it about actually? What's that book about?
The next book is about someone from the western part of Orissa.
Okay.
Who is a Christian boy.
Okay.
Plays hockey, lives in a remote village inside a jungle, and has to deal with malaria and lack of health, roads, and all those infrastructure which we take for granted.
Okay.
And then one fine day, he just lands in Delhi to do his engineering. He studies engineering and ends up being a guru.
Oh,
so
that is so interesting, sir. I'll be glad if I read that book also.
Yeah, so it will take some time. Probably the second book I will be more deliberate in my thinking and
okay.
So it will take some more time.
All the best, sir. All the best.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to finish it any time soon. Probably.
It will take time. Okay.
Next 1 year probably I will finish.
Okay, fine. Okay, so this question is quite deep. Is society fair for outsiders? What is your point of view of that?
No, it is not, and it does not have to be, because we are all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we want to mark our own territory. So if somebody comes from outside, generally people are not very accepting of outsiders. But I don't have any problem with that. And my book is not about outsiders or insiders. It is about something else. So,
Yes, I know, sir. I just wanted to know your opinion on that.
No, I mean, my opinion is
Because
that.
in this society, nepotism exists, right? Even in any aspect of life, in any field, nepotism is
It
there.
exists across the world, across all societies, across all
Yes.
geographies.
Yes.
So we can't do anything about it, and I really don't want to do anything about it so long as I am not doing it.
Okay, okay. Okay, fine. So the name of your book is Crepe Jasmines. Why did you choose this title?
Okay, have you seen how the flower crepe jasmine look like?
Yes, sir.
These flowers, they mostly they flower in the rainy season, in all those 3-4 months. And they do flower across the year, throughout the year, but only during the monsoon season they flower in. They flower better, and they look very fresh, and their fragrance is much better in the rainy season. And the fragrance is not very, it is not like rose which you can experience from a distance. So they are very nuanced, and to be able to find out how they smell, you have to go near to them. So it is it is very much like the villagers in this country, or any other country for that matter. So it is not like the city folks who kind of want to sell themselves, whatever their ideas, or what is how knowledgeable or how smart they are. The city folks, they keep on doing that, but the village people, more often than not, they are not like that. They don't want to show off.
Yeah.
You have to go and ask them. You have to know them to be able to find out what they really are.
And you have to live in that area also to know the environment and to know what village life look like. Yeah, it is so much easier to judge, right? That village life is like this, village life is like that. But if once you live that life, it is so much different than it that then it shows. So I'm agreeing with you, sir. So you have to live with them, you have to talk to them, you have to live in that environment to know what village life look like. Yes, right.
It is not about village life, it is about villagers. So
Yes.
to know them, you have to be really very near to them.
Yes.
Then only you will come to understand what they are. It is not like the city people,
Yes.
without asking them, who will just come and tell you how great they are and all. So that's why it is people from the darkness of this country. Most of the villages, the whole system in this country is so designed that the villagers are always ignored. So they are remembered only during the elections.
Yeah.
Or something. So it is about them. That is the reason why the book is named so.
Okay. Very interesting, sir. Very interesting. You have also used various imagery to describe the village life in general in the book. So what do you think is better, big city life or village life? So,
have you read my book?
So I have not read the whole book. I am in the middle of the book. I've read 6 chapters. I'm on the 6th chapter actually. Yes, sir. And while I was coming to the office, I was reading it in the metro also. And so I'm reading it. Hopefully, I'll complete it in 2-3 days.
So which part of the book you would like to discuss in terms of the imagery that has been used?
So actually, I have concern about the stone worship part, and I just wanted to ask that what do you think about that? When I was reading it, that villagers just put a big stone and just put tilak on it, and they just worship it, and they just want to, if they have any needs, that needs to be taken care of, they just come and they just worship it. So I have concern that, do you think it still happens in Odisha, or it still happens in other parts of the country also?
It certainly does, because nobody has seen God, right?
Yes,
So
but
you do not really know how do they look like, right? It is all about how you perceive, what kind of image you have in your own mind, and accordingly, all the gods and goddesses that we have in this country, they have taken form, in our own imagination.
yes,
And
I
our
agree. I agree, sir.
and our own belief and faith, right? And those people who live in the villages, they need multiple of small miracles and probably a couple of very big miracles in their life, to get by. So, and then if you consider consider temples, or any place of worship for that matter, they are a direct reflection of the people they are among. So basically, if a temple is among the rich people, the temple will be like large in size, it will have good quality marbles all around, and even the gods will look very rich. Okay, but if you you go to Tirupati, it will have many parts of the temple is I don't know whether that is gold or not, but it looks like gold, or probably brass or whatever. But similarly, you go to a Golden Temple, it has got so much of gold, right?
Yes.
But does God really care about gold? It does.
Yes.
God does not care, right?
So it's just about the belief then.
Belief and how much bhakti you have. What is bhakti?
Yeah. How much shraddha you have in yourself.
So yes. So basically, there was a poem written by one of the Gyanpith awardees from Odisha, Sitakant Mahapatra. So it was like, if you see something unusual in a tree, then there is the birth of a god. If you see, or if you put a little bit sindoor on a stone on the roadside, there is this birth of a god. And there are 33 crores of gods and goddesses 5,000 years back, and don't know how many of them are right now. It is like, if you can translate that Odia poem into English, it sounds like this. So, people, when they don't have anything to fall back upon, when they don't have education, healthcare and all, they need that intervention by gods and goddesses to take care of those small problems that they have. And so when they don't have, in villages, probably every 10-15 villages, there will certainly be a large temple that will come across if you go across the country. But every small village would also like to have their own immediate temple that they can go to, right?
And they name their gods unusually. Like
Yes.
I was reading it. The name of that Devi was Chakuli Devi, if I'm not
Yeah.
wrong, right?
Yes. So yes.
Yeah.
So it is because the in Odia
It was
the
under that tree, I
Ren
guess.
tree. The
Okay,
Ren
yeah.
tree is called Chakunda in Odia.
Okay. That is why it was named Chakuli. Okay.
Since the goddess is under the tree, so she takes some part of the tree as her name.
Okay.
So, and then the names of many small goddesses and gods you will come across, in many parts of the country, mostly in villages, be very unusual because that is all reflection of people's own imagination, their state of mind, and how much more deeply these gods and goddesses are integrated to their day-to-day life. So they offer all those offerings at the temple, which will be a function of the kind of food they eat from one season to another. So it is not like in the city, people can give all those expensive fruits or whatever they get. So in the villages, they will give a coconut or some bananas or anything that they can afford to give. Probably some rice or whatever they have at their own.
And actually, I still remember the line that Bhagwan to kan kan mein hai. So now I can see what does that mean, that in every thing God exists. So I think so, to think like that means it's true that if you have belief, if you have Shraddha, then anything can become your God, right?
Yeah, you are right.
Yes, sir. So moving on, does society treat people differently if they are born into different economic conditions? Do you agree with this?
No, I do not have to actually agree. That is the way of the world. Okay? So, I mean, when a country is poor, nobody cares about it. And just look at all those countries who are in the United Nations Security Council. All of those countries are mostly rich and powerful, right? And if you are rich, you can be powerful. So this is the way of the world. This is how the world works. So it certainly is truth. I don't have to agree or disagree with it.
I get it, sir. Okay. What are the challenges that you faced during your journey that helped you into becoming what you are today? Share some experiences of your life that helped you into becoming what you are today, sir.
Actually, while growing up, when you grow up in a village, you don't have access to many of the things that are taken for granted in the city, right? So even to catch the bus to go to the nearest city, means not city, probably the sub-divisional headquarters, probably you have to walk 5 kilometers or take a bicycle for 5-6 kilometers, then catch a bus. And that bus is only probably available once or twice a day. If you miss that bus, probably you have to basically ride a bicycle for next 25-30 kilometers to reach that place. Okay. So that is the kind of place I lived most part of my school days. And even doing graduation, I lived in a town, district headquarters, where basically the English newspaper I used to read, which is Times of India, by the time it reached us, it was 2 days old. The news was 2 days old. Okay. But I was reading the newspaper to learn, how to read and write English the way the outside world does. It was not like, otherwise, earlier I used to probably write English, which seemed to be a direct translation of Odia to English. it was correct, grammatically, and all the words were used correctly. But issue is, there is a particular way the writing has to flow. The structure of the sentence, which will seem like English. It should not be, seeming to be some sentence which or some paragraph which has been directly translated from the way an Odia thinks, or any non-English medium educated person thinks and writes in English. English should be written the way English is written. So to be able to learn that, I used to read religiously the newspaper every day. So during the monsoon season, it so happened that the newspaper, the bus will not be plying only for 2-3 days because of the flood somewhere or something like that. So I will have 4 days of newspaper delivered to me on one day. So I will be reading the newspapers for almost 3 hours, 4 hours to finish everything. So, without fail, I read 1.5 hours every day the English newspaper, and that is how I learned English.
Otherwise, how to speak in English, yes.
Yes. And when I came to the outside of the state, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, and now in Bangalore, what I have realized is, the city people, they really don't care, what is happening outside of their own city limits. So you don't have to even go 2,000 kilometers from Delhi to find out. You have to just go out of 100 kilometers outside of Delhi to find out what is happening in the villages. But people who are in the cities, they really don't care. They will come to the TV station, and in the panel they will discuss all those things, and everything will be like that is nothing but platitudes. But all the TV panels that you have across the country, only 50 people only talk about everything from agriculture to zoology, everything under the sun. They are the experts. So nobody talks to somebody who cannot speak English with that verbosity, right? So if you know a little bit of English and you speak probably the way the English is spoken by the Britishers or the Americans, everybody would take you seriously. Otherwise, they will think that you do not know anything.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yes.
And it happened with me also. Like when I was in school, I used to not speak English correctly, and they just didn't take me seriously, or they just thought that I am not knowledgeable, or I don't have any knowledge. And to be honest, either English is just a language. It's not a knowledge. You just, learn it and you will be able to speak it. So I agree with you, sir.
Yeah, but actually it happens only in India. When I talk to non-Indians, they really don't care, because they know
they don't judge us.
Yes. For them, for Indians, English is a foreign language. Yes. But those people in India who had the privilege of going to English medium schools, they think that they are, God's gift to mankind, and whatever they think and do, that is the right thing. Yes. And if they speak, English in a certain way and pronounce certain words in a certain way, they think that is the only right way to pronounce. But they don't object when George Bush speaks English, or Jeffrey Boycott, speaks English and pronounces certain words in a particular way. They don't have any problem. They have a problem only when an Indian speaks English and pronounces some words or some part of the words in a certain way. So that is where they think this person doesn't have the so to be able to good in communication, you have to speak the way Americans or Britishers do. So I have faced this so many times in the last 25 years that I cannot even count. But issue is in the last 10 years, I have not come across that, because I have understood the politics behind that. So, and since I work in a very specialized area where I don't have to be kind of speaking the right way the English is spoken, when whatever I speak, whichever way, it will be only giving the same result. And luckily, I don't have to deal with Indians on my day-to-day job.
Okay.
So I survive. I have survived so long.
Okay, sir. I get it. So it happens.
If I have to today,
Even today it happens, sir. Yes.
If I have to today again not work with my American or British or European clients, I have to work with Indian clients, then I will not have a job.
Okay.
Or when I will not be having a job which is very well.
All the best to you, sir. Best of luck for your next project, and just let me know when your next book is coming so that I can read that also. And with that, thank you so much, sir. It was such an enlightening session with you. At last, if you want to say something.
No, I would request you to read the whole book, and
I will, sir.
And it is, by writing this book, I am not trying to change anything, or I don't want to. I'm not a social reformer. I am just a storyteller. So this was the story I had to tell. So I have tried to tell the story by writing this book. It is up to the readers to,
Yes,
read. And
actually, it is very simple. Your writing style is very simple. You use layman terms when you are describing something, and it is not very difficult. The vocabulary is not very difficult to just keep your phone by your side and just search for the words. It is not like that. So it is very nice for you to that you use simple words and simple storytelling. It is very good, sir. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Have a good day.